I'm happy to give you some funds so that you can go out and buy one of those.
Yes, Your Honor. I would need that, and then I could most certainly do that.
Even though it is not anywhere in your motion, but
And I can
yeah.
make that work, Your Honor.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes, Your Honor. In speaking, prior you were speaking with regards to the redacted indictment in this matter, and then looking at the charges that are listed for Mr. Eppinger, I'd just like to bring the state's attention that count 35 against Mr. Eppinger was dismissed prior in the earlier trial, prior to his severance in this matter, and I still see it listed as the possible charges here, but that count was dismissed earlier by Judge Glanville prior to Mr. Eppinger's severance in this case.
Okay. Y'all check into that? Do you happen to know like a date or was there a written order or anything like that?
It was during the wild commotion of jury selection, Your Honor. I don't remember the exact.
Okay. Well, that'll give them something to look at. Okay. All right. Speaking of jury selection, everybody was supposed to look at the jury questions from the case one that y'all were all involved in for at least a little part of it, and narrow down, tell me what y'all don't need anymore, what you think is, you know, irrelevant, if there was anything that you wanted added. Y'all were supposed to have provided those to me by now. I've gotten a very, very short proposed questionnaire from the state. And is it accurate that that is all that the state wants asked?
That is all, yes. That's
Okay. And I've gotten nothing from any of the defendants.
Judge, my position on the questionnaire is that the original questionnaire was more than sufficient. I didn't really see a need for any additional questions. To the extent that any of the questions in there were no longer relevant to a particular defendant, those would be struck. But otherwise, the format of that, I think, was necessary and sufficient in the case of this magnitude.
Okay, so I'm not sure that we're going to do anything that lengthy. What I envision is potentially having the potential jurors come in and do on kind of a tablet, which we now have newly available from jury services, a series of questions that would be kind of the preliminary things we ask the whole group, and then let y'all follow up as necessary, but after you get the answers. And so the format may change a little bit with regard to exactly how that gets asked. But if nobody has anything new to propose and nothing you particularly want stricken, unless it's, of course, you know, not relevant to a particular defendant, I'll just take a closer look at everything and come up with something that I think is appropriate. And then is what is our best time estimate for the trial length at this point?
and I'll stick with the 90 days.
90 days, okay.
But I think it's going to be
Okay.
90 days. I think your prediction of 6 weeks may come true.
Okay. All right. All right, and the jury that eventually was the jury in the last case was sat from the first, what, 300 or 400 jurors? 400?
No, 500.
500? All right. So and that, at the time, was projected to be a 6-month trial. So if we're talking about a 3-month trial, I cannot imagine we're going to need to pull in more than, I'm thinking 400 jurors at most ought to get us what we need.
The state agrees, Your Honor.
Okay. Anybody on the defense side disagree with that?
No,
Okay. All right. And, I mean, obviously, y'all don't need to make a decision at this point in time about whether you wanted to present a defense case or not. But if I say 3 months at the longest, do y'all feel like that's reasonable?
Yes, Mr. Garlington.
Okay.
Yes, for Mr. Eppinger, Your
Okay.
Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Well, I think, Mr. Dark, maybe if you and I want to get together on what kind of funds you need, but you're going to have to get moving, because at this point, I am not moving our start date for our trial. Okay?
And Your Honor, with respect to, what I had was a proposed trial date of February 24th.
That's right.
I did file leave, and I sent it to your chambers as well as the state. And that is inclusive until the 28th. So I would just ask for a start date.
So knowing that we were going to specially set this trial for February 24th, you recently filed requesting a leave during that time?
No, Your Honor, I sent that on, I think, December 4th or December 6th.
Did you say anything to me about that leave when we were here in December?
No, Your Honor, I sent it to Ms. Rosser, I sent it to Mr. Abadi.
But you didn't bother to say to the judge during the time we were discussing a potential start date, Judge, I've got to leave in?
Your Honor, we didn't have a date at that time. I don't think we discussed a date at that time, but if we did, I apologize. But yes, I did send it to your chambers, and I did send it to the prosecutor.
But while we were here in court, you didn't say anything about it. You didn't. Y'all communicate with the court as much in advance as you possibly can about any potential issues. Okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm much more likely to be understanding about things if I know beforehand what I'm dealing with.
And Your Honor, with respect to that, whenever we speak about the funding, I will address another issue, but I would just rather
Okay.
address that directly.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Johnson.
Yes, Your Honor, just wanted some clarification from the court. So, and this goes as far as other cases that I may have. I know I have other cases that are coming up for trial. Some of them are older than this case. Should I consider this case especially set for February 24th?
Well, I don't know, because apparently we've got an attorney with a leave covers through that date. So I don't know, I'll have to look at his leave. And then anybody else with any leaves already filed that I need to know about when I'm trying to decide on a date?
No, Judge.
No,
right.
no leave, Your Honor.
Okay, let me ask y'all this, just terms of kind of procedurally speaking. If we do the tablets with just, the jurors are sitting there filling it out on their own, I know Judge Cox had done a pilot of that in what was going to be a multi-defendant gang case that he had. Everybody ended up pleading before they got very far. But what everyone had agreed to in that case, and what I'd like to propose and see what people think about for this case, is they agreed to first, a kind of summary of this is generally what this case is about, instead of a reading of the full indictment prior to the tablet, what used to be kind of the written questionnaire portion of the trial. Could we think about something like that and potentially agree on that? And then second, there was a videotape of the judge basically saying, the very preliminary things the judge always says, this is a criminal case, here are your basic instructions, answer everything honestly. And I think the jury services people were there, and maybe the judge's staff attorney was there, but the judge wasn't there, the attorneys weren't, for either side weren't there, the defendants weren't there. It was just kind of as though we mailed it out and they filled it out at their home. We wouldn't have been there. Does anybody have objection to, and the reason I'm asking is because if everybody is okay with that just being sort of a procedural thing that they all do, and then y'all get the answers, we could still potentially start our jury selection on the 24th without, if the attorneys aren't going to be there anyway, and we already know what the questionnaire is going to say and what the instructions are going to say, we can have them start going through that process and then not actually worry about the fact that Mr. Dark has a leave-in. What do y'all think about that?
Well, Your Honor, as far as the last matter of jury selection, Mr. Eppinger was part of that at that time, and the attorneys were present while the jurors viewed the video. We were all upstairs in the jury room.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. That's my mistake. Then I had met with jury services earlier this week, and I guess their recollection was that nobody was there, but I stand corrected.
We were all convened up in the jury services room.
Okay.
And we were there while the jurors watched the video, where we were able to observe them watching the video, because there are some jurors that other attorneys may mention were asleep during the video, on their phones during the video, or had left out. So that is one reason.
Okay.
I believe it was Mr. Steele that brought it up, that the attorneys needed to be there to observe these things.
Okay.
For the jury to assist us in our jury selection process.
All right. So were the attorneys there when the jurors were filling out y'all didn't, I'm sorry, y'all didn't do that with TAP. I was talking about, I'm sorry. I'm being confusing. I wasn't talking about this case. I was talking about Judge Cox's case, where they did it with the tablets. That's what they all ended up deciding. And I'm wondering if we could decide something similar. But, I mean, we don't have to. If we all want to be in some courtroom somewhere.
Well, Your Honor, the last time when we went through the process, there were 28 people in this room, so there were logistics issues and things of that nature. And if the state is going to parse down the indictment, I don't believe that the video will be 4 hours as it was the last time. So I don't have an objection to showing the video as we did last time and proceeding with the same process.
Your Honor, and previously, everyone was present for the watching of the video, but when they filled out the jurors' questionnaires, we were not present.
Okay.
The jurors were in a separate room. They filled out the questionnaires, and no parties were present during the questionnaire portion, only the viewing of the video, which was the reading of the indictment.
And all that happened during the video was the reading of the indictment?
Yes.
That is correct.
Okay, so were there any I would propose to give some basic preliminary instructions, I was thinking via video, prior to them even getting handed a tablet by jury services and told, you know, here's your jury questionnaire, you're just doing it on a tablet instead of in writing. Would anybody have an issue with that?
That's what occurred. So the video was first. So the video with some preliminary instructions, the reading of the indictment happened first, and then maybe that following Monday, I believe, jurors came in and they filled out the questionnaires without us. So the video happened first.
All right. I am not wanting to make jurors come back 3 and 4 and 5 different times. I'm thinking it is not going to be a 4-hour video, is probably not even going to be a 1-hour video. I would like for it to be a summary of the indictment, since they're going to hear the whole indictment later anyway, just like this is a case about whatever we all determine it will say it's about. And then just the preliminary. It's a criminal case, defendants have a presumption of innocence, you need to be honest on your questions, that kind of thing. And then have jury services say, here's the tablets. Are y'all thinking you want to be present for that? And it's fine if you do, you have a right to be.
Video judge?
Yeah.
Yes. I think it would be
Okay, all right. given that, then I probably won't do it as a video. If we're all going to be present anyway, I'll probably just sit there and read the instructions to them. Because what's the point of the video if we're all there? Okay. All right, well, if that's the case, then we do have to take into consideration the leave that's apparently already filed. So let me look again at our, what looks good for dates. As we approach March, I think it starts to be everybody's spring breaks, which a lot of the private schools have spring break that first week in March. So if we're not going to do the last week in February, we might want to jump to the second week in March. When is the state, when are you going to know in terms of witnesses that you actually intend to use this time around? That's usually a pretrial conference thing, exchanging the witness lists, the final witness lists. So that's January 24th. Can you have it filed by noon?
Yes, you want to file it?
Hmm?
You want to file another? Yes, we can file it. It'll just be.
Or at least exchange it and provide the court with a copy. Mr. Dark, I'm looking for a leave filed, and I'm not seeing one. When was it filed?
Just a moment, Your Honor.
Ms. Ross, are you with us on Zoom?
Yes, I am. I sent a copy, but I didn't see that it was filed, Judge, until you just mentioned something.
I mean, do you see it filed at this point? I mean, I don't see it.
I am going to check.
And if not, we're going to get an order out today, especially setting this trial for the day we already picked. of? Did you file it?
It does not look like it got filed that day, Your Honor.
Does it look like it got filed ever?
I believe, I'll have to go back through my filings and see if it got filed or maybe rejected, but we submitted it the same day that we sent it to your chambers and Mr. Abadi, Your Honor. But I will go back and double check, but I do not see it in my e-file notifications either.
Neither do I, Judge. I don't see that it's been filed on the docket.
I don't either. Do you have a copy of it that you could provide to the court?
Yes, Your Honor. I sent it to Ms. Rosser, but
Judge, I forwarded it to you about 30 minutes ago in an email.
Okay. It just came through.
But Your Honor, it was originally sent back in December.
Okay, but it wasn't filed and it's still not filed.
Understood.
Wasn't filed, wasn't mentioned, and is still not filed. Well, and then, I don't, how are we ever going to try this case? You've got leave for a couple of weeks, a month, every month. I mean, that's just not going to work.
And Your Honor, with respect to that date and the April dates, everything else is movable. But the April dates is what I was going to speak to the court about.
Why don't you just come up here right now and let's speak?
Sure.
Ms. Rosser?
Can you go ahead and file the special setting of this case for February, to begin February 24th, please?
I'm sorry, Judge?
Go ahead and get an order, especially setting this case, ready to file.
Okay.
2nd, 3rd, and then April 28th, 9th, and 30th. And I mean, you know, it's possible if we get started, we'll be finished by then, but it's not a guarantee. And if that's the case, we're just going to have to take those days off. That would be 7, well, it's not going to be 7 weeks of trial because we're going to have to do jury selection, and jury selection is going to take a while. So we have to work around those dates. All right, if we start jury selection that first week in March, while that is spring break for a lot of people, it'll just be that any potential jurors out there in the Fulton County universe who will have been summoned for that week will already have told jury services whatever their excuse is before they ever get to us, so they just basically will never get to us. And so I guess it won't matter it won't be like we've got jurors saying, I'm on spring break this week, or my kids are on spring break this week. They will already have told jury services and been deferred. So that probably will not be the big problem for us that I had been anticipating. So I'm thinking we plan to start with jury selection on March 3rd. And if nobody is willing to waive watching the giant group of jurors get told the preliminary instructions, then that's when we'll have to start. And then, I don't know, we'll just go from there. Which means we'll have a couple of gaps in April probably for those few days, like during the trial itself. All right. Okay, so y'all are all gonna file whatever narrow, small motions in limine specific to whatever these 2 music videos are by noon on Monday. The redacted indictment is going to be ready and shared with defense counsel and the state also by noon on Monday. Or do you need to close a business on Monday? Close a business on Monday. Monday's not technically a work day anyway, since it's MLK Day, but we'll call that 5 p.m. on Monday. Witness lists to all of us by noon on Friday, January 24th. We will be starting jury selection March 3rd. We will be taking April 21st, 2nd, and 3rd, and April 28th, 29th, and 30th off, if we're still going at that point in time. Beyond those dates, anybody have any dates that I need to know right now that are stretching out through the next 4 months, maybe 5 months from now, that is something immovable for y'all? Okay. All right, so that should be our only pause in the trial. Who thinks that's going to be true? Not me. Okay, so we're going to meet, let's see, can the state also have any response they want to file to whatever motions in limine get filed by next Friday, close of business?
I mean, most likely, I don't, yes.
Okay. All right, so why don't we plan to get back together if need be? I think we need to get back together and check in with each other so that y'all can keep me apprised of how we're progressing. How about let's plan to have court, let's say 9:30 on Thursday, February 6th, to take up, deal with whatever we need to. Oh, okay. That whole week?
Yes, starting that Monday, I'll be on first case in DeKalb County.
Do you anticipate it that still being going on Friday? Could we maybe do something Friday?
I may be with the jury deliberating at that point.
Okay.
I have no objection to logging on via Zoom. If you
Okay. All right. Let's do that. Then let's say Friday at 9:30, Friday, February 7th, for we'll just call that pretrial conference also. Anything else anybody needs to bring to the court's attention at this point in time?
Your Honor, Attorney Johnson for Mr. Eppinger. We're just trying to get some clarification as regards to the jury questionnaire. I was just wondering, are we going to adopt the one that we used before and people can submit any additions that they want to it, or how is that process going?
Oh my gosh, so the additions, any potential additions, I told y'all in December when we were all here in court, were due to me yesterday.
Oh, okay.
I plan to subtract from it. So had you given me any additions to consider, I would consider those, but that deadline has passed.
Understood, Your Honor. I guess I was wondering, will we be going through the formal questionnaire line by line to determine if the omissions that you all wish to make for all of us to agree upon?
I had wanted to do that this morning, which is why I asked this morning earlier if anybody had anything they thought could be deleted. And I got kind of a general, well, anything that's not relevant because it has to do with some other defendant, which I'll take a look at. If you've got specifics and you want to go through it right now, we can do that. Otherwise, if you want to just send to everybody over email potential deletions for me to consider, if you could get that
Yes, Your Honor, I'll get that
to me by the end of the day on Monday.
You'll have it, Your Honor.
Okay. And then I will go through, and on the 7th, when we get back together, we can kind of parse it more specifically.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Y'all get to work. Mr. Dark, you and I talk about what you might need in your order for any kind of funds. So if you'll come on up here. Everybody else is excused, and I'll see y'all on the 7th. Thank you.